Thank you very much, Energynomics. Thank you very much, Gabriel, for the invitation. I'm very happy to be with you today. I think we are running a little bit late. We will try to catch up. I have a wonderful panel here with me today to explore together with you something that probably is heard anytime an entrepreneur talks about the energy transition, which is how do we finance this? How do we get the money for making the green shift? I think, as you all know, Romania has committed to become climate neutral by 2050, as all other EU member states. And for this, the general estimate of investment needs is about 330 to 360 billion euros. This means about 3% of Romania's GDP that needs to be mobilized so that our country can become climate neutral by 2050. I remember at the beginning of this year, I wrote an op-ed in which I tried to make sense of all the funding that's available for the green transition in Romania. And we were having, at that moment in time, early 2025, 75 billion euros available for the transition, which is a lot of money. But unfortunately, as we are all seeing, the effect of this money is not seen on the market. We have a difficult time absorbing the money that's available. We are also notoriously missing some strategic projects, for instance, the one that we had in the Resilience and Recovery Plan. So this is the role of this panel, and I just want to set the scene a little bit, to figure out how do we unlock the funding that is available already, but how do we also mobilize extra funding for the green transition, given that very soon, if not already, the green shift is competing with other shifts that our continent needs to make, especially the part of defense that is now, I think, in Brussels on everyone's agendas. I have with you four distinguished panelists, a very gender-neutral panel, gender-balanced panel, let's put it like that, not a neutral, but a balanced panel. I will introduce each speaker before I give them the floor to share some introductory remarks. Please, if you can, keep them to about 6 minutes so that we can continue the conversation, 6-7 minutes. Some of you have slides, some of you do not have these slides. So I'm happy to introduce Oana Niculescu. She's with us today representing the European Commission. She's a political reporter at the European Commission, currently based in Bucharest, but she previously worked for 8 years as policy officer for energy infrastructure and sources in the European Commission, and previously in a number of other positions dealing with EU affairs, again, all the time with this energy dimension. So I think Oana is extremely well positioned to share with us how the European Commission sees the funding for the green transition in the upcoming years, because as we all know, the landscape is now completely different than it was 2 or 3 years ago. Please, Oana, the floor is yours to give us this introduction.
I hope you can hear me. Hi, good afternoon. Thanks for having me here today with you. Thank you for the invitation that the European Commission appreciates to contribute to this conversation, not only to the gender balance of the panel. I think that any conversation about EU funding pathways needs to start with the conversation about the multi-annual financial framework. This is actually what we agreed with Corina when we exchanged about how to best contribute to the conversation. It is basically the starting point to any exchange on where the money comes from or how to channel the money in the best possible way. I've got some slides. I hope they're not going to delay me in the message I want to pass. I've also printed them because my eyesight gets worse with the years. The commission, this new commission, is basically 10 months old. So it started in January. I thought it would be really appropriate to actually address the elephant in the room first. Do we still have a European Green Deal or not? We do. And I kept the quote on the slide that we must and will stay the course of the European Green Deal and its goals. But it's got a twist. And the twist is the fact that we need to keep and maintain our competitive edge. This is the type of crisis and sort of challenges and shifts that Corina just mentioned. I think the past 5 years has taught us that we don't have sequential crises. They're actually overlapping, and we need to be more and more resilient to actually face them. What does it mean to actually respect the goals of the Green Deal and keep the competitive edge? We have to focus on implementing the legislation that we've got. We're actually quite rich in the acquis. We need to, and the Commission has already delivered, come forward with initiatives that is supporting the industry. So our, let's say, energy-intensive economy on their decarbonization efforts, and I actually listed quite a few for you that you can look at: the Clean Industrial Deal, Affordable Energy Action Plan. So on one hand, we focus on how to help industries invest sustainably, but also keep costs, energy costs and energy prices at, let's say, I'm going to say affordable, but I want to say manageable levels. And prepare for the 2040 target on the way to climate neutrality. How do we do that? We need the financial arm for this. And this is what the MFF is, that I call ambitious and dynamic. This is the biggest budget that the Commission has proposed so far, 2 trillion. I'll explain in a bit why so much and how does it work. It's a budget that we want to use to deliver on our ambitions, climate and energy ambitions, but also ensure prosperity. What is the MFF? Because we're very good in abbreviations in Brussels. Is the multi-annual financial framework of the European Union. Basically, it's the investment budget of the EU. It's a planning instrument that is helping us reach our ambitions. So it's helping us become independent, secure, and hopefully thrive in the decade to come. What does it mean concretely? We came forward with a set of legislative measures, proposals, more than 10 actually, and it's split in two. On one hand, you have the expenditure, so what do we invest in, that is priorities. On the other, you have the financial allocation for each. Those are called ceilings. And of course, like in any budget, you don't only have expenses, you also have revenues. So there's let's say a section that details where does the money coming from, including so-called own resources. I wanted to say something about the 2028-2034 MFF. It's larger because the level of challenges and ambitions that we have is the largest so far. It's redesigned and made simpler to actually get to beneficiaries, which is something that Corina made me aware that you're all very interested in, and to local needs. And it's sharper and it helps us act and react, which is a really big change from what the situation was before. This is a snapshot of the money. And by the way, I'm glad that the discussion is at the end of the day, makes everyone come after lunch whenever we talk money. This is how the envelope is split. So the lion's share goes to the so-called national and regional partnership plans, 865 billion euros. These are plans that need to be drafted by national and regional authorities and reflect what the regions look like and what the needs are. The second, let's say, biggest split section goes to the European Competitiveness Fund. This is a boost to everything that means clean transition, health, biotech, defense, and global Europe, which is the challenges that we need to deal with that never stop at the border. I wanted to address a few aspects and go through them quickly. I'm looking at Corina for the time. Let's say the big principles that you find in the MFF that are directly connected to the clean transition. First of all, we earmarked 35% to climate and energy objectives from 30%, which was the case before. This mobilizes approximately 700 billion euros, and it goes to everything sustainable development, from climate mitigation to climate adaptations and resilience. It proposes a simpler approach to do no significant harm. This is a principle that makes sure that EU investments do not harm the environment and contribute directly to priorities. Climate resilience by design is a principle that makes sure that when we design an asset, we factor in climate adaptation features. That is, nowadays, climate change is really nearby. Think about floods, think about all sorts of manifestations like this. Well, climate resilience by design means that in procurement and in auctions, you actually go towards those assets, those capex investments that can withstand climate change effects. And last but not least, we monitor the way these expenses are being done. What does it mean concretely? It means, like I said, that the national plans are drafted by local authorities. They need to be connected to sustainable investments on the ground as the regions need. Second of all, the European Competitiveness Fund will actually strengthen competitiveness through the funds that you already know, like the Innovation Fund, new industrial decarbonization banks, all sorts of financial investments and instruments, and connect research to the market. So for the first time, we actually have a strengthened Horizon Europe that is strongly linked to the European Competitiveness Fund, making sure that research is actually scalable and commercially feasible to be sold to the market. And last but not least, of course, in every other programs, even in global Europe, climate change and sustainable investments are actually well reflected in the different measures and investment. Now, a quick look, I wanted to show you, because I mentioned the Competitiveness Fund. This is how the money is split. I'm happy to then share the slides with you so we don't stay too long. We've got more funding on each line, on each program. Just to give you an example, the Commission's proposals for the Connecting Europe facility that actually finances cross-border links, so energy infrastructure like electricity, it's 5 times more than it used to be. This is enormous. So we don't need to scramble for the money to build that necessary infrastructure. It has more simplified funding and financial tools that I'm sure EIB knows better how to pick from there, that actually meet the needs of the different projects and the different risk profile that they have. How does the MFF foster an ecosystem for sustainable investments? This is my last point, and I want to underline that it provides a stable and predictable regulatory environment. I think we cannot stress enough how important this is. This is critical to actually give investor confidence. Why? Because uncertainty and risk comes with a premium and with high financing costs. All of you know this, and it's just simply a statement that I can make. Long-term planning actually allows for forecasting, for cash flows, securing financing, and investing with impact. On the other hand, what we do with the proposed MFF is that planning becomes a backbone instrument for the way we allocate funding at EU level, which means that authorities map needs. To actually verbalize what you need is a massive step forward. They prioritize them. They start a dialogue and maintain a dialogue with partners and foster inclusion, right? And this planning delivers institutional maturity. And last but not least, it strikes a balance. So the MFF has a really good balance between static pre-allocation, which needs to happen to cover cohesion, territorial cohesion and economic needs, and make sure that no region is actually left behind, with the competitive edge. So we actually need performance-based allocation that awards excellence and innovation. And this is how the green shift is actually done. And I hope I didn't overstay my welcome.
You did a little bit, but I think it was important to set the scene because it's often portrayed in the media that the EU is giving up on its green ambition. At least at first hand, we all know that the devil is in the details, but at the first look, we seem to be having in front of us quite an ambitious multi-annual financial framework coupled with important reforms and those interesting resilience by design principles and do no significant harm, that kind of give us hope that there will be EU funding available for the green transition. But this allows me to make a segue to Marius, because it's obvious that the sum may be huge at a first glance, 2 trillion, but we all know that the actual climate neutrality funding needs are much bigger, which is where we need to be mobilizing private funding. And that's why I head to Marius, because Marius Cara is the head of the EIB Group Office in Romania at the European Investment Bank. This is a role he has been in since last year, 2024, but he's worked before for multiple years as head of investor relations at the European Commission and deputy head of investor relations at the EIB in Luxembourg. EIB being, as we all know, the climate bank, supposed to mobilize even extra funding for the green transition. So Marius, how do you see this changing shift in priorities and perspectives, and what does the EIB do to finance the green shift?
Yeah, thank you for the question, Corina. And sure, it comes as a natural flow to speak after the Commission, because we are partnering with the Commission, including in the delivery of the MFF and in the implementation of the EU objectives and goals. We are a public bank. We are the bank of the 27 member states. And like you said, we are also the EU climate bank. We are probably the largest financier of climate for climate and environment in the world. And indeed, this is our first strategic priority, to foster, to strengthen the fight against climate change by financing viable projects that contribute to the reduction of CO2 emissions and to the green transition. So how we do this in practice, if I have to give a few numbers, in Romania last year we financed, we invested at the group level 2.5 billion. Out of this, more than 70% was dedicated to climate and environment. This year, pretty much all the transactions that we signed in Romania have a climate and environment angle, maybe with one exception, which is the most recent financing for the highway, for A1. But even there, even when we finance roads, we do have criteria which look at a reduction of the carbon footprint. And so we have many tools, many products, but I will start from the strategy. And the strategy that has guided our bank since 2020 in the field of climate is called the Climate Bank Roadmap. And so this was initially a strategy for 5 years, so between 2020 and 2025, which had some key goals. One, to achieve each year to do more than 50% of the operations of the projects that we invest in to be dedicated to climate and environment. This is the main one, and also at group level last year we exceeded this target. I think about 44 billion out of 80 something were dedicated to green finance. Then secondly, we have stopped the financing for gas and fossil fuels. Yeah. So already this decision was taken with effect from 2021. Then we have implemented the Paris Agreement in all our portfolio of projects, meaning all our projects have to be Paris aligned. And so we came this year with a revision of this strategy, which included, of course, taking stock, also included consultations with the member states and with the civil society. And so we have published now what we call the Climate Bank Roadmap 2. This is actually hot from the press. Yeah, it came at the beginning of October. You can find it, of course, on our website. So this, let's say, continuation of the strategy aims to reinforce our goals and targets. We still have as a goal to mobilize 1 trillion of financing for climate and environment during the decade until 2030. When I say mobilize, I mean through the investments that we make and with the leverage that we bring to the projects to achieve this total value of the projects in which we contribute. And also we look more closely at the targets when it comes to climate adaptation, yeah? And here we're talking about forestries, about agriculture, about vulnerable cities. So here we also doubled the target. Now we aim at least 30 billion over the next 5 years. So these are, let's say, this is the big picture. These are the big goals. But to come back to your question, I think the question was, how is there a shift, and is this new reality, I suppose, in which we live with new threats and new challenges, making us change our strategy? The answer is no. And of course, over the past years, with the war in Ukraine, there are new and bigger challenges at our borders. And there is this discussion about where you put your resources. But in our vision, increased security is not in conflict with green transition or green energy, because actually the projects which we finance also contribute to a more sustainable, more autonomous Europe in the field of energy. Yeah, we want to reduce the dependence on fossil fuels, as well as the dependence on imported energy, which sometimes we import, or resources for that matter, yeah. And also, if we think of not only at the Green Act, but also at the continuation that the Commission has come up with in the new Commission, I should say, which aims to make the industry more resilient. That means an industry which consumes less energy, first of all, yeah? If we talk about steel, which is key in the production, in the defense, for the defense sector, yes, we also want to be autonomous from this point of view. And so this means to have a more competitive, more performant industry. Yeah? So all this go hand in hand, and we have at the bank put also defense on our strategy. Also there we want to double our effort, to double the financing, and basically we have reshaped our strategy for defense, meaning that apart from guns and ammunition, we can finance pretty much everything.
Thank you very much, Marius. I think you've shown both the direct way in which the bank is still supporting the green transition with even more vigor, I would say, and you've also shown the indirect way through all this resilience that you're embedding within the economy and reducing our energy dependence, which kind of naturally also support the other strategic autonomy goals that Europe currently has. However, one of the big things that is being, talked out there about EIB in the open is that you guys typically finance huge projects, very big projects, and that the little guys, the SMEs, the innovators, are not always seen by such a large institution like you. And we'll get back to that. But I do want to go to the person in the panel where these small actors are typically seen and nurtured, which is Innovation Norway. We have with us today Rannveig Gimse. I'm never sure if I'm pronouncing your name correctly or not. Rannveig is the head of office for Innovation Norway in Romania and Bulgaria. And in this position, she has acted as director of the program that Innovation Norway office in Bucharest has been operating up until 2025, which is the program focused on green business and innovation and on renewable energy. All of this being financed by Norway through the EEA and Norway grants. So you have a pretty good grasp of how an institution like Innovation Norway is financing the green shift, especially for these actors which are more at the grassroots level. And I'm interested to hearing more about that. Of course, whatever you can share with us from the past and from future plans, as Marius and Oana have done regarding the institutions they represent. So please, Rannveig, the floor is yours.
Thank you. And this is on, yes. Thank you very much, Corina, and it's a pleasure to be here. As mentioned, my name is Rannveig. I represent Innovation Norway. I've been here for the full 2 days with colleagues from our office here in Bucharest. Myself, I traveled from Oslo because I'm located at our headquarters there. But I am head of office in Romania, so I get to travel to Bucharest frequently, which is absolutely great. I'll be quite quick, but I might need to change the slides. Okay, thank you. So, Innovation Norway in Romania. First, Innovation Norway, for most of you who don't know as well, Innovation Norway is the Norwegian state and regions agency for innovation and for realizing value-creating business development across Norway. Innovation Norway is a very big agency with a complex set of roles and responsibilities. It includes innovation support across all sectors. So we are sector neutral, and I am in no way an expert on energy. So we particularly concern ourselves with the kind of strategic priorities of Norway when it comes to working abroad or our export, and that's renewable energy, carbon capture and storage, which we heard about today, alternative fuels, hydrogen and ammonia, also a lot of maritime, naturally, and I forget one, yes, offshore wind and batteries, kind of the industries where Norway maybe has something to offer. We also have responsibilities for the Norwegian cluster program for innovation clusters. We have some people here who know it well. We do, yes, export. We have brand Norway. We also work with the EU programs a lot, and European Enterprise Network. So it's a big, just as an introduction, it's a big agency. We are a regional development agency with offices across Norway. We are also Norway's official trade promotion agency. So we have 20-something offices abroad. And if you look closely in the middle of this world map, you see that we have our office in Romania. We'll come back to that. Yes, these are the aims of Innovation Norway: more successful entrepreneurs, fast-growing companies, and creating networks, really. And to come back to the point that you made very well at the start, we work with the green and digital transition, of course. Over the past 2 years, all the financing, well, 2/3 of the financing from Innovation Norway to Norwegian businesses has been green. It's actually gone down a little bit, but that's only because they started to take the definition more seriously. So we follow the taxonomy on that. And you mentioned the massive amount of financing needed for the green shift in Romania. It's the same in Norway. We also need to transition from an oil and gas economy to a greener one. So public financing is not enough. Hence the slide that shows that every krone that Innovation Norway finances triggers 2 extra krone from private capital, because you need to unleash private capital for green aims to succeed with the Paris Agreement goals, which we share, of course, in Norway. So with all of these aims, we follow the customers, the companies, step by step. Startup, scale up, internationalize. Norway is a country with 5.5 million people. You have to go abroad if you want to scale, and we help companies do that. In Romania, Innovation Norway has been in Romania since 2007. We have an office here in Bucharest, same building as the embassy, if people know it. And I hope that you've had a chance to speak to my colleagues here today. The office in Romania have as a main task to operate EEA and Norway grants funded programs, as you said. We'll come back to that. We also do export support, business promotion for Norwegian companies who are interested in Romania's markets, in finding networks and partners in Romania, in doing projects. So we can be contacted for that as well. But the EEA and Norway grants is our biggest role and the reason why we are in Romania. The EEA and Norway grants, okay, there's a map missing, but it's okay. The EEA and Norway grants is Norway's contribution to cohesion in Europe. Norway is, as you know, not a member of the EU, but we are a member of the European Economic Area since 1994. So we pay in an amount of money to 15 of the least rich EU member states in order to reduce social and economic disparities in Europe. It's financing that we also share with Iceland, sorry if there are Icelanders here, and with Liechtenstein. But Norway pays 98%. So, yeah. So it's part of our access to the internal markets, and it's a financing scheme which has added a second goal, and that is to increase cooperation between Norway and Romania and the other member states. So there are two overarching goals. And each programming period is for 7 years. So 2025, this year, is quite interesting since one programming period has ended in April, and the other one is just about to begin. The agreement is signed at EU level with Norway. Romania will receive close to 600 million euro over 7 years. But Norway, Iceland and Liechtenstein and Romania are still in negotiation on how to divide up the sums. Some might go to local development, hopefully something will go to energy, but it could be justice, it could be health, or a range of areas that are eligible within the grants.
But how central will this green shift be, if you are allowed to say anything about what you hope to see in this new funding period?
Yeah.
Because we know that it has been central so far, and
Yes.
a lot of SMEs in Romania and local public authorities and universities have benefited from the cooperation. Is there hope for this to continue, or will a change happen?
My colleagues are laughing. We cannot say very much about this. Anyone with this question, I would kindly direct to the embassy, because it's the Minister of Foreign Affairs who would know more. But overall, in the policy framework for the grants, the green shift is very central. In the next slides, I will make a point of building on good results. And a bit, like you said, there's a lot. We have operated 2 programs over the past 7 years. They have very good results, and there's been particularly good results on the cooperation between Norway and Iceland and Romania. And it takes time to cooperate, and we've heard about it today as well, how trust is very important. So I believe that building on results is something that will make sense to a lot of people who are involved in this, also in the decision making at the highest level. And somehow we will be able to continue the results that have been achieved. And if I can say something very quick on that, Innovation Norway, so far we have operated 1 program on green business and innovation, and that is our core business. It's working to help increase competitiveness in the Romanian private sector, to make the private sector more green, and to increase cooperation with Norway. So the EA and Norway grants have actually had this dual aim of the green and the growth in every project at the same time. So that's something that will continue in the next period. The program we had was 43 million euro. It went to 120 projects. They were selected through open calls that we launched. Okay, there's a very wrong number on the, there are 66 projects with Norwegian partners. Not 666, it's a bit funny. But it's more than half of them were implemented in cooperation with partners from Norway or Iceland, even though it was not mandatory. So there was good interest, and we saw that the interest increased over time. We also see good numbers in terms of solutions developed, applied, commercialized, good growth in the company supported, and some green results as well. Final slide is on the energy program to show you also what an energy program was and could be. The previous one was 63 million euro with the aim to increase renewable energy. It had a lot of focus areas. Renewable energy in general, okay? Geothermal energy, because Iceland is a donor, and they bring a lot of good expertise on that. Hydropower, Norway is very good, has a long history of that. And research and development. So I included quickly just some of the results as well. But I'd like to highlight how I think the most important result is what we see in terms of the relations created between Norway and Romania and Iceland. There are some very good examples of how cooperation is continuing, scaling up to EU programs, which is a great result. If the grants can qualify, we are very happy about that. And we also see general business opportunities going on.
Thank you very much, Rannveig. I'll just move to the last speaker in our panel because we do want to save some time for questions, who will be sharing with us another type of funding that is equally, if not more important than everything else, which is how do we fund the energy that we do not consume? How do we fund energy efficiency? We have with us today Mr. Adrian Ghita, who is the Executive Director of the Romanian Energy Efficiency Fund, which is a revolving fund supporting innovative financing for energy efficiency and renewable energy projects. Adrian is an experienced business development manager with a background in industrial energy and environmental services, having worked for a number of large enterprises. But please focus in your opening statement, Adrian, on what the fund does in order to finance energy efficiency in Romania. Thank you.
Thank you. Many thanks, Corina, for presenting us so nice. Also many thanks to Energynomics and the organizers for inviting my organization here. We prepared the presentation.
Just to be brief.
Yes. Only to the important thing you should know about Romanian Energy Efficiency Fund is the fact that we are a good model for best practices in energy efficiency financing. And I'm speaking about this with respect towards all the other financiers from our market. And our arguments are the fact that we have more than 24 years working only in this domain. We had been established as a public interest organization by a government decision in 2001. Following World Bank and Global Environmental Fund initiatives to offer a small grant, $8 million, to the Romanian government for boosting the energy efficiency financing in Romania. We are a legal independent and financial autonomous organization. We are contracting as per the government decision, let's say, requirement only in US dollars, but all our payments, reimbursement or disbursement are made in lei at the national bank exchange rate. We are offering loans to industrial companies and public authorities, small communities, less than 10,000 inhabitants. It is one of our sustainability pillars, the fact that we are offering financing to small communities, which another way they do not have access to finance. So we are offering these, let's say, secured loans, but also bridge loans we have a very good solution for the EU-funded projects, offering loans, completing the project, and then the client If he wants, he returns after receiving the EU grant. Is returning his reimbursement, the credit to us, if he wants. If not, we can follow the existing credit reimbursement. Let's say initial agreement. One of our main clients are the ESCOs, energy services companies, and I think these are promoters. Most of them are promoters of free, which is very important for us. They have the language, the skills, the knowledge to deploy energy efficiency financing in the country. This is a geographical map of our investment projects in Romania. Most of the counties are touched. Still, we have some counties where we didn't invest, but probably, hopefully, in the next period of time, we'll cover also all of this. Our figures, comparison with the one presented by Oana, Marius, even Innovation Norway budget, we are very small. We are non-significant. We had invested only $32 million, so we rotated 4 times the initial budget because we are a revolving fund. But we attracted, because of the client's contribution, total investment value of $90 million. Decreasing the footprint CO2, we estimate it was around 200,000 tons per year, each year. This is the list of our clients, some of our clients, industrial companies, big one, mid-caps, even smaller companies, ESCOs, and again, small communities, commune. A split of our investment. We are investing in all fields of activities, in energy efficiencies everywhere, modernization of industrial technological processes, photovoltaic or other renewable energy sources for recovering the self-consumption, so self-generation for self-consumption. This is our business model. We like very much the cogeneration, tree generation project, waste to energy projects, public lighting for communities, and more others. Corina. But in parallel with our financial activity, we are also working in some projects and European projects, research, and not only. And one of these is presented here on this slide, financed by Innovation Norway. So thank you, Innovation Norway, for financing this interesting project. It was called Energy Efficiency for Energy Transition in 2023, together with our partner, Energynomics, Gabriela Văcăriței, and Ministry of Energy, Department of Energy Efficiency. We organize a campaign for increasing awareness among public authorities, industry, general public regarding the energy efficiency principles. We organize public conference, specialized workshops. Energynomics organized a summer school. And we had a very good project, and we are very pleased about this. Thank you again, Innovation Norway, for this. Climate Fit is an EU-funded project. It is a EU research project, Horizon project, regarding boosting the climate adaptation financing towards the private entities. We are part of the European Energy Efficiency Coalition. We are very active in different working groups in energy renovation for buildings, but also for SMEs. I have some successful projects here. I don't know if we have time. Corina is a little bit worried about timing.
Yeah.
But only to pass very quickly on this one. So CNG retail station together with Cinea, we co-financed the first retail station based on compressed natural gas. It is a green transition project, a very, very typical one, using the natural resources of our country. Small project in a commune from Vrancea district, very small project, but with good benefits for that authority. Also, utility services project in Hunedoara County. Last week, we signed this contract with Romplay Merops, which is a wood processing industry. We invested in replacing some of their hot presses and other technology with modern systems. Thank you. I'm stopping here.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Adrian. The reason I was a little bit impatient is because I had a lot of questions prepared for the panelists, but I'm sure that you have questions as well. So actually, before I head to mine, I would ask you to address questions to the panelists, given that we have seen the whole breadth of support for the green transition possible from the very, very macro level, what the EU is doing through MFF, to the super large tickets of EIB, like 2-point-something billion funded over the last year, to Innovation Norway, a different type of funding mechanism, much more geared around bilateral cooperation, and up to this very exciting, small, with really convincing results projects that the Romanian Fund on Energy Efficiency is offering. So please, if there are any questions to the panelists, so that we have more time for questions. If not, I will go back to my questions. But
the microphone is here with
I
me,
do hope there are
and
some
I can
from the audience.
I can be right with you in a moment.
All right.
Please.
Okay. In case you do have some questions, please raise your hand, and I'll try to take notice of those. Maybe now to Oana for a small add-on. You did focus on the MFF, but as we all know, the Commission is also the rule setter, right? It's creating this enabling legislative and regulatory framework for all these other investments to flourish in the market for the green transition. So do you mind saying a couple of words about this enabling framework that the Commission is trying to create from a legislative perspective for the green shift? And you may focus on a specific sector or more broadly as you wish. Because at the end of the day, regulations, I think, are also important.
I mean, you can't say that enough. And I think I mentioned in my presentation, the first thing I want to say about the risking project is a stable regulatory environment. So at the Commission, we work on policy and legislation. Then you have the co-legislators of the Parliament and the Council agreeing on what the actual legislation should look like. And then it's the member state that have to implement. And we're at this phase now where we have patches of legislations that haven't been yet transposed, and then you see different speeds across the EU. So what I want to say, and thanks for basically feeding it directly, is that there's no money without the legislative framework. There's no money if we don't know where we're going towards. I think, and Rannveig said it, the public purse is just simply too limited. So if we count on the public money to deliver on all our objectives, including the so-called green shift, that means basically everything. It's a mindset more than a single set of sectorial investments. So if we count on the public money to deliver on this, we can just all close and go home. So it's about a mindset. It's about a society that has a certain direction, right? And you give incentives. So like she said, 1 krona can then leverage 2-3 kronas. And this is where different instruments that the Commission has, so policies, incentives, and then the EIB helping on project specifics, and then people delivering projects on the ground like you. And this is how you build the ecosystem. So I think we can spend days in a row speaking about what needs to be done. But first, it starts with predictability. So if we don't agree on a direction and basically a speed for this clean transition, we're just going to lose, because the delay is just costing us all. There's a price for non-Europe. There's a price for non-investing in something. And like I said before, risk and uncertainty, it's straight off our pockets. So I wanted to just underline this. And yes, I mean, as the Commission, we don't always, like you said, set the rules. We want to facilitate in how these rules are being implemented, and partnering with authorities at all levels, in line with subsidiarity and proportionality principles, on how these rules should be implemented. So we want to come closer to local needs and community needs. And this is what this new MFF is actually doing. It's lessons learned. So we learn our lessons. Now let's start this journey in which we actually negotiate a plan that delivers for us all.
Thank you very much, Oana. And I think we all know that the political landscape in Brussels is much more complicated and much more fragmented than it used to be. And still, I think that particularly us here in Eastern Europe, we still look at the Commission as a beacon of hope to continue to uphold this ambitions around the Green Deal, around the 2050 carbon neutrality target, and even when legislation here on the ground is not working properly, to kind of step in and engage policymakers to create also here on the local ground an enabling framework. And speaking of ecosystems, Marius, I'm heading to you to ask you a question, because you work with virtually all stakeholders, from national authorities that you give out money to subnational government, to large enterprises. And I know that through commercial banks, you also work somehow indirectly with SMEs. What gives you the greatest hope out of all these stakeholders in achieving the ambitious goals that we have set for ourselves? Which of them seems to be more, let's say, convinced and on board with this whole shift that we're talking about?
Well, I mean, you mentioned earlier that we finance large infrastructure, and clearly that's where the impact is biggest. And when it comes to energy, one of the purposes of EIB is to contribute to the single market integration. There are many markets in Europe, capital markets, energy markets is one of them. And this market is also very fragmented. And if I look at this part of Europe, the poor connectivity between Romania, Hungary, this eastern flank, and the western part of Europe is the reason for the relatively high cost of electricity in Romania. So what one of our objectives, which is, I mean, our objectives are always aligned with the member states' objectives. And in the field of energy, I think the most important objective of Romania is to improve this connectivity. And that's why, because, I mean, energy production, talking about renewable energy production, has known a boom also in Romania. And it continues. We continue to see new facilities. We do contribute in the financing of some of these projects. But for example, last year, the most important operations were in the financing of electricity grids in Romania. We had two loans of 200 million to Electrica and Delgaz. So we do finance the state directly, but also we finance, and we believe that probably at this stage, it's the companies, be them multinational or state-owned companies in Romania, that have to drive the growth and the integration. But we also look at all the others that, all the other categories that you mentioned, and each has its own, let's say, challenges or particularities. We do finance energy efficiency, clean urban transport, or public lighting, more efficient public lighting in the cities. But most of the time, or let's say, not in many cases we see that there is the project readiness is not there. So we try to help the local authorities to bring those projects to a bankable stage. So technical assistance is one major component of our activity in Romania. We always, or for the local authorities, in most of the cases, we co-finance with EU funds, yeah? So we really see this blending at work, yeah? Grants, loans from EIB, and technical assistance to, you know, to enable and to grow capacity at the level of municipalities and county councils. And then, yes, there is the SME sector. We reach them in multiple ways. First of all, we have the European Investment Fund, which is part of the group, and which is, let's say, the specialist, the special instrument, and which operates via guarantees and funds that it supports. Venture capital, equity, private equity funds. So this is how, and each of these funds will have thematic objectives, yeah? So in Romania in particular, the European Investment Fund is one of the main catalysts of the market. But like you said, we also have at EIB, so the bank, we operate through financial intermediaries, the commercial banks in most cases, but we will start working with BID, with the new National Promotional Bank, Investment and Development Bank, which started to operate this year. So we want to work with them more and more to reach SMEs, but also smaller municipalities or operators, utilities operators, which we may not be able to reach directly, because simply we don't have the capacity to analyze their risk. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Marius, for this comprehensive overview. I think it's always very difficult to ask such a complex institution to say which of its children it loves more, you know, so it's not easy. But I did get the point of this strategic impact that you've mentioned at the beginning, you know, the big projects, the big companies, and how you're able to create strategic impact there, which I think is great. So keep up the good work, so to say. We still have, look, we have a question there, please. And if I may ask you to direct your question to a member in the panel, if you can, not just a general one, or I mean, that would be ideal, to pick a question from there. In the side.
So I have just a question regarding the post-financing of technical issues on geothermal projects in Romania. What kind of problem we have? We faced some geohazards, and afterward we realized, after the drilling was finalized, that more gas was in the well than it was proposed before. So the financing was created for the geothermal heating system. It could be finalized, but what to do with really good amount of natural gas methane, which could be used also for heating. And that is then a question: is there an institution financing solution for community principles where they can go to catch up these problems? That would be the question.
Is it directed towards somebody specifically from the panel?
It's any of the financing. If anybody of the financing banks or foundations, if they have or can find a solution, because that is not only the green change, we are also finding sometimes fossil stuff in the underground, or the CO2, which has to be captured, but we can get the amount after the drilling was finalized. You cannot pre-plan them.
Okay. Yeah, so how do we deal with funding somehow fossil fuels, assuming that once you drill for geothermal, you're identifying fossil fuels? I know this is a very specific question, so I'm not sure if any of the members wants to answer, because I think the funding for fossil fuels in general is something that probably none of these institutions is keen to do, and yet somehow, you know, they don't disappear overnight. So yeah, what do we do on that?
Maybe I can give an idea from my previous life, from a month ago. If you're drilling and finding fossil fuels, they should have a market value. It's not for this panel to direct you to this. The whole point, there's no funding for it because it doesn't require funding. It's got a market value. Then on CO2, the Commission, because this is what the message I wanted to pass, the Commission has launched a public consultation this autumn on market infrastructure rules for CO2. So to actually create a value chain from the capture side to transport and permanently store it. Thank you very much. To permanently store it. Creating market rules will actually mean that this is an area where investors can actually go and invest to actually build the whole elements of the value chain, which are not scattered, and investments are delayed and probably highly riskable. So that's my 2 cents on this.
Thank you very much. There's another question in the audience. I gave you this chance 15 minutes ago, and now when I need to wrap up, you're coming up with questions.
I'm sorry, I'll just redo a little bit the question. So the idea is how to get financing after the project's finished, but you find that the need for money is more than just what it was financed. So it's not necessarily a geothermal question. It's more like what you do after you finish the project, and you find a lot of unknowns that need more money. Because usually you finish the project and that is all. You don't get any more money.
It's a very broad question, but maybe I could direct it to Rannveig, because you were saying about startup, scale up, and then ecosystem. So do you ever support the same company in different stages, or do you think it's something that maybe Romanian authorities could be doing? Because I see the point. Sometimes there's a death valley when it comes to financing from one stage to another, and then what's an ecosystem player that can step in to fill that gap?
Right. Thank you. It's very hard to hear the question.
Exactly.
So
There's a very bad sound here on the scene, so it's complex.
Yeah, we finance the same actor. Yes, absolutely. I think I think every country has a kind of death valley at one point of the from idea to market and deployment. In Norway, we have kind of the same challenge as I think in Europe, especially if we are to hear from your presentation. We are rather good at making pilots, but we only make the one. We don't scale, which is what we need to do to have the green impact, but also to compete globally as well. So I think I see in Europe, in Norway, and also in the EEA and Norway grants, if we get the chance, more focus on the scaling and impact side of things. So moving up in the TRL scale. I don't know if that answered your question at all, but I also mentioned how if for example, a scheme like the EEA and Norway grants could connect partners and then qualify them for, taking their cooperation and project further, for example, to the EU. Those kind of, seeing things in stages is good. But yeah.
I believe, and if I may add one idea, I think the Innovation Norway is one great example of helping organizations to enter into an ecosystem of similar organization with similar goals. So once you are there, you are in a much better position to identify the next partner, the next project, the next format for developing your idea. So something like that.
Thank you very much for that explanation, Gabriel. I think we're at time. We don't have time for more questions or comments. But I would like to thank all the panelists for their interventions and for the amazing roles that each of you are playing in financing the energy transition and enabling it in general at different levels. So thank you for that. And I know there's now the closure section, right?
Yes.
So we need to...
Thank you very much, Corina, for this moderation. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I invite you to remain on your places because I will do the closing for this 2 days conference in 3 minutes, not more than that, I promise. It will be less than a minute to thank the organizer, the Nordic Council, the embassies, all the teams or the persons we worked during the last 6 weeks, maybe more. It was very complicated, but very rewarding. Thank you very much. Thank you also all the speakers. It was a great assembly of very various backgrounds, very solid knowledge that was shared during these two days. Thank you. Thank you also those who were present yesterday and today, because their questions, their inquiries help us all to share more things, to put more things on the table. That would be with the thank you note. I have 2 more minutes. One, which in 1 minute I try to select a few ideas, maybe most important. I will close with a personal note. We talked a lot about strategic and legislative predictability, and we started the other day with that, and we close it with the same idea. I am glad that Mr. Cristian Bușoi, State Secretary, announced yesterday that Romania is very close to adapting the legislation act in order to finally implement RED III in Romania. This is a very important step towards this predictability and legal framework that would put us into the position to invest more for green energy. We talked a lot about values, and we started with that, and I think that we also reached the same point. Trust and solidarity in the center of Europe, where the interests of Romania ask us to push more for better interconnectivity between the European countries, but also at the eastern part of the continent, where the aggression, the risk, the war threaten us all. Solidarity is much more needed also. And also in terms of technology and institutions, I think that Nordic countries are way ahead compared to Romania in many aspects. And this is something that we kind of knew before getting us all together. We saw this plenty of times in CCS, in geothermal, in hydrogen, in e-mobility, in heating solutions. In all these areas, there are so many things that Romania has still needs to implement at home. At the same time, Romania is rapidly advancing towards the same goals that the Nordic countries share, and that is green transition, protection of the environment, and so on. So Romania is not only recovering the gaps in economic development and economic productivity, which is astonishingly rapidly happening already in terms of GDP per capita and so on, but also in terms of reaching those goals. And my personal note here, I think that the Nordic countries are definitely the place for Romanians to look at, while Romania is at the same time the place for the Nordic countries to be in, because the development will happen in all our countries, Maybe Romania a little bit more accelerated, with a higher pace, but based on the knowledge that you in the northern countries already achieved. That would be all for today. Thank you very much, and we are looking forward to meeting all of us or in separate groups in the future. Thank you all.